Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Northwest Small Batch Brewing. I am Steven, and today I got kind of a divisive sort of topic to talk to you about. In fact, I wasn't even sure I was going to do this video. I had to have a really long think about it as to how I wanted to approach this, because I don't want this to sound like I'm, ragging on other YouTube channels or brewers that are putting out videos and that sort of thing. So, I expect there to probably be some comments and things about this. It's a very controversial sort of topic, but before I get started, do me a favor if you want to help support this channel. Nothing could support it more than if you would look down and consider subscribing, so that you get notified every time I put out a new video. So, today's video, as the topic stated, is Kveik yeast. I mean, even the pronunciation is a little bit divisive, because depending on where you're from, you may pronounce it differently, but I believe, I don't know, maybe the way I'm pronouncing it is wrong, but that's how I usually hear it. So the question is it being used the way it's intended, and is it really as good as all these channels are talking about? So if you've been watching any kind of YouTube channels for home brewing lately, like in the past year or two, I'm sure you've come across channels with these sensational headlines like "Make this beer in 24 hours," or ferment this beer and drink it within 48 hours or whatever, And here's my problem. I mean, they're not wrong. You certainly can ferment a beer that fast and drink it, but it won't taste good. And in my opinion, it's not done. The question is, how do you define done, right? I see a lot of times people asking how do I know my beer is done? And the answer always seems to be, well, if you've taken a gravity reading over 2 or 3 days, then you know it's done. Well, back up a second there, Honcho, because done, what does done mean? I mean, is it done fermenting? Probably. Does that mean it's ready for you to drink? It's done? Not so fast. So, I have always had a rule that I will not drink a beer that is less than 1 month old. And I have not had to really break that rule. Anytime I've tried to break it, the beer's been terrible. So how does Kveik fit in? Supposedly, so Kveik is this really old yeast. It's not like it's a new thing. It's been around forever. It's an old Norwegian farmhouse yeast. And the idea is that you can ferment beer with this particular yeast strain hot, meaning a hot temperature, say up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit hot. So, and that it supposedly won't have any off flavors. It'll be fine, and you'll have beer within a day or two. Here's the deal. I have personally found that no matter what, if you stress the yeast, even Kveik, it's going to give you off flavors. And I tried this. I tested this. I got some Kveik yeast because last summer I thought, man, I don't have air conditioning. My house gets so hot. I'm going to try this Kveik yeast. Maybe I can brew beer over the summer with it, and I don't have to worry about a fermentation chamber or a way to control the heat, and the temperature of the fermentation. Boy, was I ever wrong. So here's what I've found. When you look through all the videos about people using Kveik yeast and claiming they are making beer in a day, right? Number one is they are almost always making an IPA of some sort. And I think probably the reason being is because IPAs have a ton of hops, right? And what does hops do? Has a ton of flavor, right? And all the hop flavor that they're putting in an IPA probably does a pretty good job of masking some of the off flavors that stress that Kveik yeast when they pushed it to its limits, right? I mean, every yeast has a range, right? Even standard ale yeast is going to be, let's say 65 to 75 Fahrenheit, or I don't know what the range is. I have to look at the packet. Each yeast is different, but the point is, just because it can ferment at a higher temperature doesn't mean it's going to turn out good or that you should do it that high. In most of the situations on YouTube where I see people doing this, they're fermenting at like 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and then after a day, they're bottling or kegging up the beer. And most people are saying it has this really weird window where it can be drunk and be okay, but certainly not as good as if you use just a standard yeast. If you ferment it and you don't let it sit and age for a few weeks, you end up with bad tasting beer. If you ferment it hot and you keg it and you wait a few weeks, but you don't drink it fast enough after that, it goes bad pretty quickly. It turns, bad, like off flavors pretty quickly. So there's this weird time frame where you have to wait a few weeks for it to age out and then drink it before it starts to go bad again. It's just, what I don't understand, here's my soapbox. What I don't understand is why people are in such a hurry to make alcohol. I mean, if you really need alcohol that bad, go down to the store and buy some beer, or go to the liquor store and get some liquor. Why are people in such a need? To me, that's a red flag, right? That's a problem. If you are excited about being able to make beer or have beer be ready in only a day, you might want to reconsider, why you're making beer in the first place. I mean, for me, it's to make a really good craft beer. Quality over quantity has always been my rule in life. So that's just where I stand on it. Like I said, it's divisive because some people will not agree with that. But for me, brewing beer has nothing to do with speediness. My number one rule with making good beer is time. You give it time. It's the same thing like with whiskey. You can't cheat time. And even Kveik cannot cheat time. They do say, here's the deal. There are some caveats or things you can do that might make this a little better. For example, my understanding is if you use liquid yeast, right, a liquid Kveik yeast over a dry yeast, you'll have better results. Also, if you're using Kveik yeast and you're fermenting hot, doing it under pressure will probably help suppress some of the off flavors, and making sure you add a lot of yeast nutrients. You're stressing the yeast out. Give it everything you can. Make sure you've given it, a really good shake for oxygenation before you pitch the yeast. And then make sure I've been reading like you can pitch 2 to 3 times the normal amount of yeast nutrient for Kveik because it's going to need it. Other than that, my suggestion is either use a regular yeast and take your time to make a really good quality beer. It's worth the wait, in my opinion. Or use Kveik. There's nothing wrong with using Kveik yeast, but use the right strain of Kveik for the right beer, and then don't stress it. Look at the package. If there's a range, try to put your yeast right in the middle range as far as the temperature range, and give it a full month. Give it time to finish fermenting and ferment out. There's no reason to push beer out that quickly. It's just, I guess maybe if you have like a wedding and they've asked you to make beer, but, I would just say, look, it takes time. If I try to make it, it's not going to taste that great because you want it faster than it can be ready. There was something else I was going to mention. I don't know. Just, let it do its thing. Let yeast do its thing and take its time, and it'll turn out great. So anyway, I'll be interested to hear what you have to say, but I will say there have been a lot of people that have mentioned that Kveik really has done awful things to their beer. So I'm laughing because I've had it, I tested it myself, but I'm also sort of sad, to see such clickbaity YouTube videos. Don't like that, you know. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in a week for the next video. And as always, keep on brewing. See you soon.